Hello everyone, it is me, your host, James the Foods Man, and welcome back to the Man's Kitchen. Now today we're looking at static pictures and a couple little video clips. What we're looking at right now is some Boston butt or pork shoulder that's in the oven. And the reason it's in the oven is we did a big festival last weekend. We catered for 1,000 people. It's a charity function, actually. What it is it's for the Children's Treatment Center, and they deal in children with developmental needs. So, the pork shoulders are in the oven for the midnight buffet. The midnight buffet, we did a nacho bar, and one of the flavors of nachos was pulled pork. So we also needed to cook for the volunteers at this event, and you can see my pots of meat sauce on the stove. We ended up making lasagna for the volunteers, and a good trick when you make lasagna is you always want to make it at least a day before. And we made this on the Thursday. I think we made about 12 pans of lasagna. We used 8, so the other 4 we kind of just made up for the restaurant. You want to let it set. That's why we make it the day before, and then when you reheat it, it always stays together better without puddling out into a big mess. And it was really important for us to make a good hearty meal for the volunteers that had been there all day. We also made them a salad. There's some pictures of that later on. Next up is just some stock that we were making to make the gravy out of. And we're back to some pictures of the pulled pork just finishing up in the oven. I think at this point we turned the ovens off and just let it hang out and rest for a bit before we pulled it. Now we have some pictures of the vegetables that we had to prep up. You can see there's some peppers and some celery. These are full-size 4-inch pans that are full. In this fridge we have all the marinating beef for the event. We did about 90 beef tenderloins. Here you can see the cooked off lasagnas and some cooked ground beef. And there's some more prepped items. Basically, we have a basement kitchen just full of stuff. Now we got some onions. Like, I'm just showing you basically the volume of stuff needed when you're cooking up for 1,000 people. And this is just going to get mixed everywhere. Actually, right now we're making the pasta salad. So we have all these bins of cooked penne, and we're going to use those diced items that we had there, the onions, the carrots, the celery, and we're going to mix all of those. See, there we go. The onions, the carrots, the celery, and the peppers. And we're going to mix all of those, and that's what a finished bin looks like. I think we ended up with 3 bins of pasta salad. So next up is a picture of my good friend Dave, who is acting like Superman because that Dodge Caravan behind him, that looks so low to the ground right now, is weighted down with 950 dinner plates. The hall that we were using has plates, but it's a goofy story. Basically, the city gave the contract to one company without really doing any bids, and in the agreement, the 6 caterers that had pre-existing events there were allowed to do their 1 event a year. So this is one of only 6 times a year an outside caterer is allowed in. And since we're outside, they basically lock everything down, and we have to bring our own plates, cutlery, water glasses in for the event. So Dave was good enough to come on over and help bring all 950 plates out of the basement and load them up onto the van. So next up, you're seeing some pictures of 400 pieces of sausage in one bowl and chicken in the other bowl. And now I'm cutting up some peppers and marinating them off. Basically, we also had to do appetizers at the start of the night. So when everyone walked in, there were skewers, there were meatballs. So all this stuff's going to get turned into skewers, but I didn't get any pictures of those. So like I was saying, the way that the night flowed out was when people got there, there were skewers, there were burgers, there were hot dogs coming off barbecue, there were meatballs, there was shrimp cocktail, and they basically got to pick at some appetizers while they were signing in or getting their tickets stamped or however it worked. And this was kind of some of the appetizer prep. Okay, the next pictures actually take us to Saturday morning, the day of the event. We were at the hall dropping some stuff off, and I got some pictures of how we had the buffet line set up. You see there's 3 buffet lines ready to go. Just food has to be dropped off in them, and the tables were set with the plates all underneath those tablecloths. This was the hall. There's 100 tables, all set for 10 people each. The theme was international sports, so that's why it has a little bit of a NASCAR vibe to the room. We had to put some of our warmers in random hallways spread out just so we wouldn't trip breakers. So these are 2 of them. Okay, when I got back to the restaurant, the beef had already been grill lined. It was seared and then grilled just to get the charring marks on it, and then it was basically put into the refrigerator. And you see all the beef laid out now because when we went to rewarm it in the oven, because right now it's raw even though it looks cooked, and we wanted to serve it medium to medium rare, so what we did was you need to let it come back up to room temperature, and that takes about 30 minutes. To cook it after it's been flashed like this to medium rare-ish takes about 30-35 minutes in the oven. So what we did was we took the first half of it out and let it warm back up to room temperature. Then we took the second half of it out and put the first half in our ovens. So I was able to briefly for a minute get a picture of all of the beef here in all of its glory. Alright, after the beef, I went back on upstairs and started getting the quinoa salad prepped up. And you can see all the vegetables that we had left over from the other salads. So 3 bins of quinoa salad are what we ended up making. And we also made Caesar salad. We got that prepped up for the volunteers. Remember back at the beginning when we got their lasagna ready? Well, this is the Caesar salad that they got, and that is a giant, giant bin. Our next job that day was to get the gravy made. So all that stock I showed you earlier went into this one pot. And you saw my friend Mike standing there in front of it, so that way you could see the size of it. This pot got 5 boxes of 5-pound boxes of mushrooms added to it, and that was the gravy needed for 1,000 people. And by the way, because everybody is trying to eat healthy these days, and nobody wants flour or carbs, half of that gravy came back to the restaurant that night. So later on, we took all the beef out of the oven. I got some pictures of it. You can actually see some steam coming off of it. And that beef was then put into our warmers, where we were able to hold it so it didn't go over medium rare. And that's basically what we did. Then we brought it out and stuck it on the carving line during the buffet, and it was all carved on up. We got all the mushrooms in the gravy and we thickened it. I think we needed like 4 or 5 pounds of flour to thicken that gravy up. And moving on down to the basement, we have the vegetables. We did the vegetables in rice. So we have 5 pans of vegetables. It was 2 8-kilo bags of rice, if I recall correctly. So that gave us, like, say, about 100 pounds of vegetables and rice for everybody. And we had about a pan and a half come back at the end of the night. At the start of the video, I mentioned there was a midnight buffet after all of this, where they had nachos with pulled pork. They also got cheese and chili. And the dishes started to come back as we were getting ready for the midnight buffet. And you can see the dishes getting worked through the dish room. And in the oven here, we have pulled pork and taco meat heating up for the nachos. By the way, on top of this, I had a full restaurant. You can see the floor plan with over 80 customers. So here I am at the end of the night at the hall helping with the midnight buffet. And that was the entire night for me. Just to recap, because there's way too much stuff that happened that day. The 3 days leading up to this, I wasn't able to get pictures of everything. The menu that night, they had a green salad, they had a pasta salad, and they had a quinoa salad. The hot items were mashed potatoes, which I didn't get any pictures of, the rice and vegetables, and the beef tenderloin that had the gravy. At the midnight buffet, we served a nacho bar. Some nachos we topped with taco meat and tomatoes, some with nacho cheese, some with chili, and some with pulled pork. And there were always a few people that would pick up one tray and say, hey, can I get some of that added to this one? So we were always willing to accommodate and made sure everyone was happy. This, I think, was the 14th annual Festival of Giving, and we've catered every one of them, I believe. It's for a good cause, and I hope that this kind of gives you an insight to how hectic and crazy it was for us leading up to the event. Thanks for joining me here in the Man's Kitchen, and I'll see you next week. Remember, I'm your host, James the Food Man, and if you like this video, hit the like button. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'll have links for all those down in the description.